find it? Well, maybe it's in here. I thought I pulled it out, but oh no, it's no. Yeah, it's here. It's at the bottom. It was okay.
All right, you may be seated. All right, Kelly, we're back on the record. You may proceed with cross-examination if you wish.
Okay, Brother, yesterday you had a marker for the tablet. Do you still have it? I have one if you don't. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Dr. Flores.
Hello.
Yesterday, you had us take a look at this graphic. Do you recall?
Yes, I do.
And that graphic you identified is from the Mayo Clinic.
Mayo Foundation, yes.
The Mayo Foundation, okay. And the Mayo Clinic and Mayo Foundation are very well-regarded, well-respected medical facilities. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, you don't have any association with the Mayo Clinic or the Mayo Foundation, right?
No, I do not.
You didn't study there?
No.
You didn't train there?
No.
You didn't consult with them about this case or anything?
No, I did not.
Okay, all right. And you just pulled that off the internet?
Yes. I needed a good graph in that.
You Googled it and this is what you got? You wrote a report in this case. Do you have it in front of you?
I do not.
All right. If I tell you, if I remind you that the date of your report was September 30th, 2011, does that sound right to you?
It sounds about right.
And what were the dates that you met with the defendant in September of 2011?
I do not have them in front of me.
You don't have that in front of you?
Nope.
Did you have it in front of you yesterday when you were here?
I have it in my purse. Since I used it yesterday, I just left it.
So you had your binder with your notes in front of you yesterday, but you don't have that with you
I
right
don't
now?
have them today because I already testified to what was in my notes.
Okay. Well, I can refresh your recollection. If I tell you that your report indicates that you met with the defendant on the 8th, the 14th, and the 28th of September, does that sound about right to you?
They do.
Do you recall when it was that you reached your opinion in this case about the defendant's diagnosis?
Yes.
When was that?
It was, I don't recall if it was the first or the second.
After you met with him the first time or the second time?
Correct.
Do you recall testifying in a prior proceeding in this case?
I did.
And that was under oath?
Correct.
If at that time you testified that you reached your opinion in the case on or before September 16th, 2011, does that sound right to you?
Remind me the dates that I saw him again, please. September, was it 11?
The 8th. Right, let me double check. You interviewed the defendant, per your report, on the 8th, the 14th, and the 28th. Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
And you reached your opinion on or about the 16th. Is that right?
That would sound about right.
That sounds about right. You talked yesterday at length about some testing you did of the defendant.
Correct.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
The date of the test for your defendant's exhibit number 5, that's the 29th of September. Is that what that says?
It says 29th, yes.
It says 29th?
Yes.
Okay, so you reached your opinion in the case before you completed the testing that you told the jury about in the case. Is that right?
That is correct. My opinion was that he had bipolar disorder, and then I followed up with some testing to see if there was any reason for me to doubt my diagnosis by following up with testing of malingering.
Okay, so is that what you typically do? You do the testing after you've reached your opinion just to confirm where you started from?
I actually do. Once I do an evaluation, first I do my clinical interview, and I have an idea of where I am in terms of my opinion, and then I do my testing to see if there's anything in my testing that needs me that it does not corroborate what I am leaning towards. So had the testing reveal something else and additional information come to me after I met with Mr. Neuman, my opinion could always have changed.
Sure, it could always change with new information, right? I'm just making sure I understand the timeline. You reached your opinion first, and then you did the testing.
I reached my opinion that he had a mental illness, he had bipolar disorder.
And then you did the testing.
And then I did the testing to
Okay. Thank you, Dr.
ensure
Flores.
that there was no malingering.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. Sure. Do you recall testifying yesterday that on the day you left the state Hospital, where you used to work, that you called the defendant's then attorneys and said that you were available to take the case. You recall saying that?
I believe that it was that day.
The
Either
very
that
day.
day or possibly, yes.
Soon thereafter, and that was
Very soon
September
thereafter.
2011, right?
I left the first, yes, that is correct.
Okay. When you were working at Georgia Regional Hospital, the state hospital, did you bill by the hour?
I did not.
How were you compensated at that time?
I was a salaried employee.
And now you're in private practice,
That is correct.
and you typically get paid by the hour.
Correct.
And you testified yesterday your typical rate is somewhere around $325?
$350 an hour.
Thank you. $350 an hour. And in this case, you negotiated a flat fee.
I didn't negotiate. I was told that the...
All right, let me rephrase a better question. You received a flat fee in this case
Correct.
for $25,000 total.
Correct. For all the work done.
At the time the defendant saw you in September 2011, he had not ever been diagnosed with a mental illness. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You were the first one.
I don't know if I was the first one because he was evaluated by somebody else, and I don't recall if she came before or after me.
To your knowledge, were you the first one who diagnosed the defendant with any mental illness?
I do not know whether I was the first or the second.
Please listen to my question. To your knowledge, your personal knowledge,
Yes.
your firsthand knowledge, are you the first person who has diagnosed the defendant with any mental illness?
The way that you're putting it, I suppose I am.
That's what I want you to do. I want you to
Okay.
answer my questions the way I asked them.
Okay.
All right. Tell the jurors, please, what's the legal standard to find someone insane in the state of Georgia?
There are two prongs.
Mm-hmm.
One of the prongs is that the individual could not differentiate right from wrong.
Right from wrong. What's the time frame that the person is to be found legally insane? What's the time frame that the person is unable to distinguish right from wrong?
At the moment that the event is occurring.
The moment the event occurs. In
Correct.
this case, at the time the defendant killed Rusty Sneiderman.
Correct.
The time he pulled the trigger.
Correct.
That's what we're looking at.
Yes.
Okay. Doesn't matter what his state of mind was before, correct?
That
For
is
the legal
correct.
standard.
That is
Doesn't
correct.
matter what his state of mind is now, right?
That is correct.
What legal insanity is the defendant's state of mind at the time he committed the crime. Is that your understanding?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And you talked about another standard. What's the other standard? That's the unable to distinguish right from wrong standard. Is there another way you can be found not guilty by reason of insanity under Georgia law as it is now?
There is.
And what's that?
The second one is that the individual was under a delusion that overmastered their will and that would have justified the actions.
Right. That's a two-prong test, right?
Correct. And you can meet either one of those. You do not have to meet both of them.
That's your understanding?
That
That's your understanding of
that
legal
it's
insanity?
right or wrong.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's
I
right.
think we're saying the wrong thing. All right. So one way you can be found not guilty by reason of insanity is if you didn't know what you were doing was wrong. The other way you can be found not guilty by reason of insanity, this is a two-prong test, whether you had a delusional compulsion and then whether you would have been justified in doing what you did if the delusion was true.
That is correct.
Is that a way to
Yes.
say it? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So mental illness, even serious mental illness, by itself, that's not how you're found not guilty by reason of insanity, right?
That is correct.
All right. Because even very seriously mentally ill people can know right from wrong, right?
That is correct.
In fact, most do.
Correct.
And even seriously mentally ill people with schizophrenia, people with psychosis, even those people are able to distinguish right from wrong in most situations. Is that right?
That is correct.
Dr. Flores testified an awful lot about what the defendant told you. Other than what the defendant told, let me ask that a different way. Assume for the purpose of my question that what the defendant told you was a lie. I want you to assume for the purpose of my question that the defendant was lying about demons and lying about angels and lying about hearing voices. If that's true, your opinion is wrong, correct?
It would be wrong. However, I would also expect there to be information that would corroborate the fact that he was in fact lying. In other
Dr.
words,
Flores, I want you to listen to my question. I want you to answer the question that I ask you, okay? Do you understand?
yes, I do.
Okay. So you testified yesterday that you've testified before, right?
Yes.
Okay. If the defendant is lying to you about hearing voices, seeing angels, seeing demons, if he is lying to you about that, is your opinion wrong?
If, in fact, it is a lie, the answer would be yes, it is wrong. Those are not the facts of the case.
All right. You talked about erotomania. You thought the defendant has erotomania, and you described to the jurors yesterday what that is. Assume for the purpose of my question that the defendant and Andrea Sneiderman were in a mutual romantic relationship and that they were experiencing the same reality. They saw things the same way. Is that erotomania?
That would not be, but that was not the facts of the
Dr.
case.
Flores, you got to listen to my question and answer the question I ask you.
Objection, Your Honor. She is allowed to explain her answer.
You're correct. She is allowed to explain her answer, but at the same time, the lawyer has a right to ask questions. She has an obligation to answer the question that the lawyer proposes. Now, if it needs an explanation, she has to explain that answer to that question. So, I will note your objection. Go ahead.
Thank you. The defendant told you that told you that he was in love with Andrea Sneiderman, right?
Yes, he loved her.
And the defendant told you that he thought Andrea Sneiderman was in love with him.
No, he did not tell me that.
He didn't tell you that?
He did not say specifically that she had ever told him she was in love with him.
Do you remember Dr. Flores testifying in a previous proceeding?
I do.
And you were under oath at that time?
Yes.
You were sitting right there?
Yes.
Court reporter was taking down what you said?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to refer you. I'm going to ask you to take a look at something, and you tell me if that refreshes your recollection as to whether you testified previously that the defendant told you that he loved Andrea, he believed Andrea loved him, and that with Rusty gone, they could be together. Would you take a look at that, please? I'm referring to line number 3 on page 2052 for the record.
And that is correct. That is what I testified to.
Can you read for the jury? I'm sorry, does that refresh your recollection as to what you testified to previously?
I testified that he believed that Andrea, yes, that he believed that Andrea Sneiderman loved him, but she never told him that she loved him.
Dr. Flores, do you recall now testifying that the defendant told you that he loved Andrea Sneiderman, that he believed Andrea Sneiderman loved him, and that with Rusty gone, they could be together?
Yes, that is what he believed.
That's what he told you?
Correct.
And that if Rusty was gone, they could be married and they could raise the kids together?
I don't recall if he said married, but he thought they could be a family together and raise the kids together. Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Let me refresh your recollection again.
Do you recall that you testified previously that the defendant thought with Rusty out of the way, they could be married and that they could raise the kids together?
Yes, it's on here.
Do you remember now that that is what the defendant told you?
I don't recall him specifically saying that to me.
Oh. All right. And you described the way the defendant very elaborately told you that he believed he had to rescue the children, right?
Yes.
And you described it with a lot of detail and enthusiasm. The defendant told you that he had to save the children. That's what he told you.
That is what he told me,
Okay.
yes.
And he didn't tell you that he ever called the police in an effort to help the children, right? He didn't call the police ever.
Correct.
He thought the children were in danger, but he didn't do that.
Correct.
And he didn't tell Andrea Sneiderman he thought the kids were in any danger, right?
That's not what I testified to.
Did he tell you that he ever told Andrea Sneiderman that the kids were in danger?
He said that he had told her that Rusty could hurt them.
When did he tell you that? 2016 or 2011?
I believe it was both times.
Both times.
I believe it was both times. I'd have to look at my notes to recollect my memory.
And you don't have those in front of you?
I think I do have some of them, but not in front of me.
Are they here at the desk?
No.
Okay. Defendant didn't tell you that he called DFACS or anything, right?
No, he did not call
Child
me.
Protective Services. Didn't make any effort like that, right?
No.
Okay. And he didn't try to take the kids himself. These were his kids. He thought they were his kids. That's what he told you?
That was his belief.
Okay. And he didn't try to take them out of the home or anything like that. Didn't
No.
try to rescue them physically.
No, that was not, no, he did not, and the reason for that is because
I'm not interested. My question didn't ask you to speculate why he did or didn't do anything. I'm asking you what the defendant told you. Okay? Do you understand?
I do understand.
Okay. And he didn't ever tell you that he tried to physically take the kids himself, rescue them, take them into his custody?
No, he did not.
Okay. When the defendant and Andrea Sneiderman were planning trips together, did the defendant ever tell you that he told Andrea, make other arrangements for the kids, make your mom watch the kids, don't leave them there at home alone with Rusty, who's going to hurt them, while we go to London for a week and a half?
No.
Did he ever tell you anything like that?
I just answered no.
No, thank you. Hey, Dr. Flores, you talked about all these emails, right? You talked about several emails yesterday with Ms. Hanson?
Yes.
And you talked about the fact that you had reviewed the emails that were relevant to the case.
I did.
Did you review all of them? Or were some selected out for you?
I would have to take a look at what you have to see if I reviewed all of them or not.
I'm approaching the witness with what has been stipulated and admitted into evidence as states 5A and 5B.
So no.
No, I did not review all of the
You
emails.
didn't review all of them? Who reviewed them for you and selected the ones that you testified to here in court were relevant to your opinion?
The ones that were felt relevant to my opinion would have been his previous attorneys.
All right, so you didn't look through all of this yourself and figure out what was important to your opinion. Somebody else gave you some that they thought you might find significant?
Something that would be relevant to my opinion about his mental state at the time. Yes.
The emails that you did review, any of those emails refer to Ian Sneiderman as my son?
No.
Any of those emails from the defendant refer to Sophia Sneiderman as my daughter?
No.
All of those emails that refer to the kids refer to them, in fact, as your kids talking to Andrea, right?
Correct. And I testified that she did not want to hear about anything else.
Dr. Flores? That wasn't the question I asked. There's no direct evidence in any email that you reviewed that has the defendant calling those kids his own. Is that right?
Correct.
And when Andrea Sneiderman, in those email exchanges that you reviewed, when Andrea Sneiderman is talking about the kids, she says my kids, right?
I believe she does.
The defendant doesn't ever say our kids, right?
Correct.
When he's talking to Andrea or when he's talking to anybody, he never makes reference to those kids as his own, right?
Correct.
There's lots of references to the defendant's actual children, his biological children. You saw that, didn't you?
There is some reference, yes.
And he calls them my kids, right?
Yes.
Lee, Tom, Adi. Those are the kids he identifies as his own kids, correct?
What do you mean by identifies as his own kids?
Let's take a look. Dr. Flores, do you recall an email that you read yesterday about the defendant giving advice, writing out advice, raising good kids? Do you remember that one?
Yes.
And in that email, he references his own children, his own 3 children, Tom, Lee, and Adi. Do you remember that?
I'm trying to remember whether he specifically referred to them.
Well,
He
yeah.
may have.
Yeah, let me refer you to Defendant's Exhibit number 23. And you testified about Defendant's Exhibit number 23 yesterday. You remember?
I remember I read an email about raising the kids.
You didn't read this part, but this is the part I'm interested in. And you recall, don't you, that this is an email from the defendant to Andrea Sneiderman, and it's dated August 8th, 2011. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I want you to start reading, Dr. Flores, and I want you to start reading right here where it says, I have twins.
I have twins, a girl and a boy, and a younger daughter. Lee and Tom are 20-year-old juniors at Georgia Tech. Addie is 17 and is a senior in high school, also on her way to Georgia Tech. All 3 have extensive volunteer hours and have significant work experience.
That's fine. Thank you, Dr. Flores. Now, this email is dated August 8th, 2011. Is that what your recollection is?
I'd have to take a look at it.
Take a look at it. Is that dated August 8th, 2010?
It is.
August 8th, 2010. And when was it you said that the angel came and told him that Andrea's children were his? That was back in July, wasn't it?
That was in July.
July 17th, right?
I don't remember the exact date, but it was in July.
Did you say it was the date in July where he started calling the Longmont Hotel?
Yes.
And do you recall now that the date he started calling the Longmont Hotel was July 17th, 2010?
If you say it is, then it is.
I want to know what you remember, Dr. Flores.
I don't remember the exact date. There are lots of dates in this case, Ms. Price. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Sometime back in July. That's when the angel came, and from then on, right, every single day from then on, the defendant believed those kids were his.
Correct.
That's your opinion.
That is my opinion.
That's what he told you.
That is my opinion, and that is what he told me.
That is what he told you. All right. But when he wrote that email on August 8th, when he wrote that email, he said he had 3 kids, right?
On that email, he says that, yes.
And he didn't review any email that said that he had 5 kids, right?
No, I did not.
Dr. Flores, tell the jury, what's the difference between a delusion and a lie?
A delusion is a false, irrational belief that feels real to the individual.
What's a lie?
A lie is a purposeful deception with the person knowingly understanding that what they are telling you is not the truth.
All right. And you said yesterday when you evaluate individuals for malingering. Remind the jurors what's malingering?
Malingering is attempting to feign or to fake mental illness or to exaggerate symptoms that one already does have in an attempt for secondary gain. In other words, to gain some sort of benefit from it.
All right. And you described the defendant yesterday as having a legal problem. When you talked to him, he had a legal problem, and by that you meant the murder charges pending against him.
Correct. Yes.
Right. And when someone does in fact have a legal problem, murder charges pending against them, you got to take a pretty critical look at what they're saying, because that's a big incentive to malinger, right? To fabricate or exaggerate symptoms?
Most definitely, yes.
All right. Because some people lie about having symptoms of mental illness in order to get them out of a legal situation, right?
That is correct.
All right. And lots of people lie to the police about what they've done in order to avoid going to prison. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right. Now, the defendant in this case, he's capable of lying, isn't he?
Sure.
Yeah. And he did it a lot, right?
I'm sorry?
He did it a lot, didn't he?
I don't know if he has done it a lot.
All right. Well, let's refer to the interview with the police. At the time the police interviewed the defendant in January 2011, the day he was arrested. You reviewed that video, right?
Yes, I did.
And you reviewed the transcript?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, and your opinion is the defendant was delusional at that time, right?
That is correct.
Because all this period of time from July, when that angel came to him and said, those kids are yours, up till you saw him in September 2011, more than a year, you say he had this delusion, right?
In 2011, he no longer had that piece of the delusion.
He lost that. When did he lose that one?
I don't know when. It isn't that he lost it. It's that it had it had softened a little bit.
Oh, all right. It softened sometime. He had it in July 2010. Had it in November, right? November when he shot Rusty.
Had it in November.
Because that's the whole point, right?
Correct.
Right. When he talked to the police in January 2011, did he have it then?
Yes, he did.
He still had it then. Okay, great. He had it then. When he talked to the police in 2011, January 2011, you say he was still delusional. He still thought those kids were his.
He did.
Okay, all right. And when he told the police that he wasn't having an affair with Andrea, did he forget?
No, he
lied?
He lied because he did not
I
want
don't want you to speculate as to why he lied, Dr. Flores. My question is, did he lie when he told the police in January 2011 that he wasn't having an affair with Andrea Sneiderman?
Yes, he did.
All right. And did he lie to the police in January 2011 when he told them that he wasn't there when Rusty was shot?
Yes, he did.
All right. And did he lie to the police in January 2011 when he told them that he didn't have a gun, he hadn't shot a gun in years?
Yes, he did.
So he didn't forget that he had done all those things.
No, he did not
He
forget.
wasn't under a delusion that it was somebody else who had done all those things.
No, he was not.
He knew at the time he was saying that it was true and he was lying.
Correct.
Let's talk about Orna Hannison. You remember being asked questions about a woman named Orna Hannison?
Yes.
All right, and Orna Hannison, if you recall, was the HR manager, human resource manager at GE, who the defendant was friendly with and had dinner with in September 2010, before the murder, right?
Yes.
Okay, now September 2010, before the murder, you say the defendant was delusional, right?
Correct.
Delusional during that time.
That is correct.
He believed that he and Andrea were going to live happily ever after, right?
No, that's not what I testified to. I said his illusion was that when he met with her that the children were his and that the children were in danger.
Well, what's the delusion as it relates to Andrea?
Well, there's the big one is that he thinks that he has fathered her children. That's a clear delusion.
All right, so that's fine. That's what he told you, that he thinks he fathered children. So at the time that he met with Orna Hannison in September 2010, before the murder, do you recall reading that interview?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall being asked questions about it yesterday?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And do you recall that at that time the defendant told her that, oh, this person I'm having an affair with, she's got 2 small kids? Do you remember that?
Yes.
All right. And he didn't tell Orna Hannison that they had 2 small kids together, right?
Correct.
But he was delusional.
That is correct.
Okay. And he didn't tell Orna Hannison that the person that he was having the affair with was working at GE, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And he didn't tell her that because he forgot.
Correct. He did not forget.
He didn't forget.
No, he did not
And he's
forget.
just not a part of any of this, right?
Correct.
All right. So he told Orna Hannison that he lied when he told Orna Hannison that the person he was sleeping with wasn't working at GE, right?
He did.
Okay. And he knew when he was saying that it was a lie, to your knowledge?
He did, and there were reasons for why he had to lie.
Of course, it benefited him to lie, right?
It did. He didn't want to lose his job.
That's right. It benefited him to lie. He didn't want to lose his job when he was talking to Orna Hannison. He didn't want to go to prison when he was talking to the police. He can certainly lie to benefit himself, right? The evidence has shown in this case that he can lie to benefit himself, right?
He can lie. He can lie. In that case, yes, it was to benefit himself. He didn't want to lose his job.
Okay. All right. And again, the angels and the demons and the psychosis that you have described in this case, all of that comes from the defendant, nobody else, right?
Correct.
And if the defendant lied to you about angels and demons and psychosis, then your opinion is wrong.
If I believed that, in fact, he had lied, if I knew, in fact, that he had lied.
Assume for the purpose of my question that he lied. Your opinion is wrong, right?
My opinion would be wrong, but those are not the facts of this case.
Dr. Flores? The defendant told you this story 10 months after the murder. Is that right? Murder is in November 2010, and you saw him in September 2011, right?
That sounds right, yes.
Okay. All right. And that is, if the defendant was arrested in January 2011, that's 8 months after he was arrested, right?
That's right, yes.
All right. And he didn't tell anybody about an angel any time before that you're aware of?
Correct.
He didn't tell anybody about a demon any time before he saw you in September 2011. Is that right?
That is incorrect.
That is incorrect?
I believe there was somebody else that he had told about the demon.
Who? Who did he tell?
I'm not sure that I'm allowed to testify.
All right. Let me... Dr. Flores?
Excuse me, I apologize. Would you secure that phone? Somebody phone just secure that phone. Go ahead.
Is the person you're referring to, do you have a recollection of hearing that someone associated with the defense team was someone that the defense representation associated with the lawyers, is someone he first told this story to?
Yes.
All right. Other than that, and that was in August 2011?
I don't know the date that that person saw.
After the murder?
Correct.
Well after the arrest?
Correct.
After the ballistics report came back in February 2011?
That would have been right, yes.
All right. You talked about the defendant telling you about the demon in the shack. You remember that?
Yes.
The demon in the shack. Boarding school at 13. Hey, you testified yesterday before I start that. You testified yesterday that this school was for underprivileged children. Is that what you testified to?
No, I said there were two components, and one of them, the younger part of the school with the younger kids, tended to take mostly kids that were underprivileged and sort of more foster care. The upper level grades had kids that in fact did have homes.
Okay, all right. And when you talked yesterday about the defendant telling you he felt like he raised himself, he and his sister raised themselves, do you recall testifying to that yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. Did you remember the defendant telling you that they had nannies and housekeepers?
Yes, he did, but he did not have an emotional attachment to them.
Dr. Flores, please answer the question I ask you. Do you remember the defendant telling you that his family growing up had nannies and housekeepers?
And my answer was yes.
Thank you. All right. At the school in Israel, defendant's 13?
When he started, yes.
All right. I want to talk about the demon. When he saw the demon in the shack, who'd he tell?
He didn't
At
tell
that time.
He did not tell anyone.
He didn't tell anybody. Any documentation that you reviewed indicating that the defendant had some kind of breakdown when he was 13, 14 at a school in Israel?
I don't have any documentation.
You don't have any documentation of that?
Not written documentation, but I do have some
I'm
corroboration.
talking about written documentation.
Not written documentation.
No written documentation about that at all. So it said it happened when he was 13, 14. He didn't tell anybody. The first person he told about it was you decades later.
To my knowledge.
To your knowledge. And that was 10 months after the murder.
Correct.
And that was 8 months after he was arrested.
Correct.
And that was after the ballistics report came back.
Yes.
All right. You talked about the defendant telling you about the demon coming to him in February 2010. You remember talking about the demon coming to him in February 2010?
Yes.
All right. And that's when he's driving in the car, and you called it a suicide attempt. Did you call it a suicide
I
attempt?
believe it was an intent.
Intent. Not attempt. Intent.
He didn't actually do it.
No, he didn't, did he? He didn't actually do anything, right?
Correct.
But he does say that he saw the demon coming at him. He's driving in the car, and he sees the demon, and the demon talks to him. Is that what he tells you happened?
Yes.
In February 2010.
Yes.
All right. But he didn't tell anybody at the time, right?
At that time, he did not.
No, he did not. And you didn't review any independent documents, any verification that that actually happened, right?
There is no documentation.
There
Correct.
is no documentation. The first person he told that to was you, correct?
About the demon or about the
demon.
intent?
About the demon.
To my knowledge, yes.
And that was 10 months after the murder,
Yes.
and that was 8 months after he was arrested,
Yes.
and that was several months after the ballistics report came back, knowing that the murder weapon was linked to him, right?
Yes.
Next time the defendant's seeing things, it's the angel in July. Is that what you testified to yesterday?
Yes.
And that's when the angel said to his, the kids are yours. We already went over that, but that's what the angel said at that time?
Yes.
All right, and that's the day he started calling the Longmont Hotel. And if I tell you it's July 17th, 2010 for the phone record, do you agree with me that that's the date, right?
I will agree with you.
All right. So starting July 17th, 2010, your testimony is that from then on, the defendant's under the illusion. He thinks those kids are his, right?
Yes.
Every day he wakes up, he thinks, I've got 5 kids. These are my kids. I got 5 kids now. I've got to take care of these kids, right?
That is not what I testified to.
Does he think every day of those, that he has this illusion? Does he think every day those kids are his? Or does it kind of come and go?
The belief is there. I don't know that he's consciously waking up every morning and saying, I have 5 kids.
But the belief is there.
The belief is there that the kids are
And
his.
that's his reality, right? That's
His
what you testified to. That's what delusions are. That's his reality.
Right.
So if people ask him how many kids he got during this period, it would be his reality to say 5, right?
Not necessarily.
But he's got 5 kids. He thinks he's got 5 kids.
He does.
Uh-huh. Okay. Back in July 2017, when he sees this angel, who does he tell about it?
He doesn't tell anyone.
He doesn't tell anybody. Do you remember the circumstances under which he described seeing this angel? Where was he?
The first time it presented itself, he was at a friend's home. They had had dinner there.
Who's the friend?
I don't recall the name of the friend.
Did he tell you the name of the friend?
I don't recall, Miss Cross.
Would it help to check your notes?
I don't think those notes are here. I have tons of notes that
Tons of notes.
I don't
And
have.
all right, so
It was back in 2011. I'm sorry, I don't remember if he told me.
That's okay. Do you remember if you ever talked to anybody who the defendant said was there at this dinner party when the angel appeared to him and he had this psychotic break that you talked about?
No, I didn't.
You didn't talk to anybody?
Correct.
If the defendant had told you the name of the people he was having dinner with, would you have called them?
I believe I would have.
That would have been some valuable information to have, right? Somebody
Sure.
who could corroborate that he was acting strangely, hearing voices, seeing things that weren't there. That'd be interesting to know, wouldn't it?
Well, that he could potentially have been responding. When somebody
Potentially.
hallucinates, they don't always respond. You cannot always tell when somebody's hallucinating.
You wouldn't assume, though, that somebody who was witnessing the defendant have a psychotic break wouldn't have noticed anything. You wouldn't assume they had no information to share, right?
Correct, which is why I wanted to speak with his wife, because she was present.
Dr. Flores, did you speak to anybody who was at this dinner? Where was the dinner party? I know you didn't. You couldn't remember who it was with. You know where it was?
It was at a home of a friend, and his wife was there, and she's the one that I wanted to speak with, because she would have been there.
And he told no one at the time. There's no documentation to support that happened either, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the first person he told about the angel was you, and that was 10 months after the murder, right?
Yes.
And that was 8 months after he was arrested,
Yes.
and that was months after the ballistics report came back.
Correct.
All right. But we know this dinner party happened the same day he called the hotel, right?
Yes.
July 17, 2010.
Yes.
All right. And then the angel comes back. What does he do about it?
What does he do about what? I'm sorry. About
having this revelation, the kids are mine, the kids are mine. That's when he goes out to Colorado and has a romantic couple of days with Andrew Sneiderman. Is that right?
he gets on a plane to go tell her that the children are
He
his.
told you that's why he went.
Correct.
Okay. And when he gets there, he doesn't tell her.
He attempts to tell her, but does not.
All right. Does he try again?
No, he said she completely shut him out.
Just
and,
the one time?
And that was it. She would not hear of it.
But the angel told him that he was supposed to tell her. Why did he just give up after one time?
She completely shut him out.
Well, why didn't he send an email?
She completely shut him out. She wouldn't hear it. She wouldn't hear anything to do.
That's what he told you.
Correct.
From then on, he never tried again?
He did not try again.
He didn't try again. Okay. Okay. So do the voices command him to do things in the way he described it to you? Does this angel command him to tell Andrea? And then he just doesn't do it? Or does the angel not command him, it just informs him?
It said to him, for that particular time, it said to him, you need to let Andrea know.
So the angel told him, you have to let Andrea know, and he just gave up after one time?
He made the attempt. He made the attempt. She completely shut him out.
Just
And
shut
so
him down.
that was it.
Couldn't do anything about it. All right. August. Angel comes back. Angel comes back in August 2010, right? That's what the defendant told you.
Yes.
All right. You remember what day it came back?
It's toward the end of August.
If I show you, page 2072. If I show you, Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Right.
Your prior testimony in a previous hearing in this case, I want you to let me know if that refreshes your recollection about the day that
Okay.
the angel came back. Do you remember the day the defendant told you that the angel came back to him in August 2010?
I have here that it would have been on the 19th of August.
August 19th?
Correct.
All right, and that's very specific. Obviously, you got that from the defendant?
Yes.
All right. So the defendant told you August 19th, that date, no other. The angel came to him again. Is that what? Describe the circumstances for me. Where was he?
He had just been over to see Mr. Sneiderman, and he was driving on 285 to Chambly, Dunwoody is what he said, and he was driving, and the angel appeared to him again and told him, the children are in danger, you must protect them.
Children are in danger, must protect them. That's very specific where the defendant was at that time.
You cannot let what happened to you happen to them.
That's what the angel told. That's what he told you. The angel told you.
That is correct.
Okay. Did the angel say you gotta kill Rusty?
I don't believe it did. I believe it said you need to protect them.
And the defendant didn't interpret that to be call defects, right?
Correct.
He didn't interpret that to be talk to Andrea. There's something going on with these kids, right?
That is correct.
He said he went from protect the children to kill Rusty.
That was the association he instinctively made, he said.
Because again, as we talked about, he told you that he was in love with Andrea, right?
He was in love, yes.
And he believed Andrea was in love with him, right?
He believed that she was, yes.
He believed that she was.
Correct.
And if Rusty was out of the way, then they could be married and they could raise those kids together, right? That's what he told you.
No, that's actually incorrect. He told me that, in fact, what he told me was that while that's what he wanted, that there was no assurances from her. She kept telling him that under no circumstances was she going to break the union with Rusty.
Motive. Dr. Flores, do you remember that the defendant told you that he was in love with Andrea, that he believed Andrea was in love with him, and that if Rusty was out of the way, they could be married and raise the children? Do you remember he told you that? I just refreshed your memory with it, but I can do it again.
If I may, what you're saying, sure, I'd like to look at it.
Can I approach? I'm referring you again, Ms. Sampson, to page 2052. I was referring for Ms. Sampson and Dr. Flores, beginning with line 3. Is that what you testified to at a previous hearing?
With Rusty gone, they could be gone and they could raise the kids together.
They would be married and raise the kids together.
Yes.
Yes. All right, this angel in August, he didn't tell anybody at the time, right?
Correct.
And there isn't any independent verification, no documentation that this in fact happened. It's just the defendant telling you, right?
Right.
And he told you 10 months after the murder.
Yes.
And he told you 8 months after the arrest.
Correct.
And he told you after the ballistics report put the murder weapon on him.
That's right.
Did the defendant tell you, I'm using defense exhibit number 27. Did the defendant tell you on October 22nd, 2010, Andrea told him this can't happen again? Is that what he told you? It's there on the defense side, so I'm assuming that you either prepared that or that was prepared with
Right.
your...
I believe that actually came from an email that Andrea may have written to him.
From whatever the source was, you believe on or about October 22nd, 2010, Andrea told him this can't happen again.
That is correct.
October 22nd, 2010. Hey, Dr. Flores, you know it was October 26th that the defendant started looking for a gun? Did you know that?
I'd have to take a look at the dates.
Did you know that it was October 29th when the defendant went to the gun range and signed up for a gun safety class?
I don't have the exact date. I know that he did. I don't know the exact dates.
Do you know that he actually did take the class on November 1st, 2010?
I know that he took a class. I don't have the dates.
Okay. So all of those things, assume for the purpose of my question that all those things happened on the dates that I just told you they did at the end of October 2010 and not in August of 2010 when the angel came and told him that he had to protect the children, he had to kill Rusty. Because you said that August 19th, that's when he had the mission to kill, right?
Yes.
That's the mission to kill, August 19th. He didn't do anything about it until Andrea tells him that, hey, after this last Greenville trip, I'm done, I'm out, I'm not playing anymore.
He doesn't do it until November.
Hey, Dr. Flores, did the defendant tell you that the demon or the angel gave him detailed instructions as to how he's supposed to kill Rusty?
No, and I would not have expected that.
I didn't ask what you expected. I asked if he told you if the voice did. Did the voices tell him that he had to shoot him, for example?
No.
Did the voices tell him he had to wear a disguise?
No.
Did the voices tell him to lie to the police when he gets picked up?
No.
All that he thought to himself. He thought up on his own.
Correct.
On the day of the murder, I want to talk about the day of the murder because you told this jury that what the state of mind on the day of the murder is what we're supposed to be focusing on, right, for the legal standard?
That is
So
correct.
I want to talk about the day of the murder. On the day of the murder, he didn't tell you he was hearing voices as he loaded the gun, right?
Correct. He did not hear voices on that day.
No, he didn't. And he didn't see that angel as he went to work super early that morning to create an alibi for himself. He didn't see the angel that day, right?
That is correct. He did not see the angel after the 19th.
Demon wasn't whispering in his ear as he went down the steps and got out the fire escape door at GE to get into the rented car that he had gotten in order to make his way over to the Dunwoody daycare, right?
That's right. He was not hallucinating on that day.
He was not hallucinating on that day.
That is correct.
He didn't tell you voices told him to get out of the van and made him do it.
No, he was not hallucinating on that day.
Angel didn't point out Rusty Sneiderman as he's walking back to his car and say, there he is, go get him.
No, he didn't.
No. Well, that would be silly. No. And he didn't see the demon as he was putting the muzzle of the gun to Rusty Sneiderman's neck. He didn't tell you that.
He was not hallucinating.
He thought about all those things all by himself.
That is correct.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. I don't have anything else for this witness.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we give you another 10-minute stretch break before we go into redirect. Deputy Mayor, 10 minutes.
All rise.